Hey Vikings Nation, what's up? If you're feeling that familiar mix of excitement and anxiety in the air, you're not alone. The Minnesota Vikings are once again standing at a crossroads, and the decisions being whispered about right now could reshape this roster for years to come. Today isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about identity, direction, and how far this team is willing to go. Here's the teaser that should grab you immediately. The Vikings are tight against the salary cap, loaded with future draft picks, and quietly preparing for some painful choices. Big names, fan favorites, and leaders in the locker room are suddenly part of serious internal conversations. That alone should make every Vikings fan stop scrolling. The hook is simple but powerful. Are we about to witness a veteran purge in Minnesota? Or is this just smart financial maneuvering that keeps the competitive window wide open? Stick with me because the answers aren't as straightforward as they seem. As a Vikings fan talking directly to Vikings fans, I can tell you this already feels like one of those off-seasons we'll be talking about years from now. So let's break it all down together, calmly, honestly, and with the passion this franchise deserves. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah stepped in front of reporters at TCO Performance Center with a calm tone, but don't let that fool you. Beneath the surface, the Minnesota Vikings front office is juggling cap pressure, long-term planning, and draft strategy all at once. This wasn't panic. This was confidence mixed with calculation. According to recent analysis, Minnesota's leadership isn't sweating the cap as much as outsiders think. Yes, flexibility is tighter than last year, but the organization planned for this moment. That's a key detail many fans miss when they see alarming cap headlines. One major reason for that confidence is draft capital. The Vikings are projected to hold at least 9 picks in the 2026 NFL Draft once compensatory selections are awarded. Compare that to just 5 picks entering last year's draft, and the shift in philosophy becomes obvious. This isn't accidental. This is a front office that clearly decided to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term control. And that brings us to the uncomfortable part: who might be paying the price for that strategy. Let's talk about the money because that's where things get real. Reports indicate that moving on from 2 veteran players alone could create close to $20 million in cap space. That's not pocket change. That's the kind of number that changes entire offseason plans. On top of that, there are serious internal discussions expected around Aaron Jones and TJ Hockenson. Separating from both would reportedly free up around $17 million more. Combined, those decisions would push the Vikings close to financial breathing room. But make no mistake, these are not easy calls. Jones brings leadership and reliability, while Hockenson has been a focal point of the passing game when healthy. Cutting ties isn't just a financial move. It's an emotional one for fans and players alike. This is where Vikings fans need to ask themselves a tough question. Do you want loyalty, or do you want flexibility? Because in today's NFL, you rarely get both at the same time. Then there's Brian O'Neill, quietly sitting in the final year of his deal with a massive cap number hovering around $23 million. An extension here isn't just logical, it's almost necessary. Stretching that cap hit would instantly help stabilize the books. The same logic applies to Blake Cashman, whose contract is set to void after the 2026 season. These aren't players you rush to cut, but they are contracts you absolutely reevaluate when cap pressure mounts. Beyond that, the Vikings have multiple levers they can pull. Converting base salaries into signing bonuses is a classic move, and Minnesota has plenty of candidates for restructures. Justin Jefferson, Jonathan Greenid, Andrew Van Ginkel, Byron Murphy Jr., Josh Oliver, Christian Darrisaw, and Fries all represent opportunities to create short-term cap relief without sacrificing talent. The question is how aggressive Kwesi wants to be. Now let's address the rumor mill, because this is where fans really lean in. Aaron Jones and TJ Hockenson aren't the only names floating around as potential financial casualties. Javon Hargrave and Ryan Kelly have also been mentioned in speculative discussions. It's important to be clear here, these are not confirmed decisions. These are scenarios being evaluated, not moves already made. Still, the fact they're even being discussed tells us how tight the margin is. If Hockenson were to be moved on from, the Vikings would immediately need answers at tight end. Free agency could be an option, and younger veterans could make sense depending on price. There's also the draft angle, which brings excitement and anxiety all at once. Minnesota could even get aggressive and target a tight end early if they truly believe in the prospect. At running back, the situation feels slightly clearer. Jordan Mason is under contract next season and could realistically step into a lead back or committee-heavy RB1 role. That wouldn't shock anyone inside the building. Still, the Vikings are overdue to draft a running back. This roster has leaned heavily on veterans for years, and the pipeline needs fresh legs. Prospects like Jadarian Price or Jonah Coleman could be available after round 1, making them realistic options without breaking the bank. That's the kind of value pick Minnesota must nail. The key question for fans is simple. Would you trust a rookie backfield if it meant long-term stability? Because that's exactly the type of trade-off this front office is considering. On the defensive line, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins is a name worth watching closely. As a rookie, he flashed potential and clearly wants more snaps. Opportunity could knock loudly here. If veterans are moved, young players like him won't just rotate. They'll be expected to produce. That's a big leap, especially in the trenches. At center, things get even murkier. Ryan Kelly's absence forced Blake Brandel and Michael Juergens into action at times, but neither has proven they can handle full-time starting duties. That uncertainty is risky. Center isn't a plug-and-play position, and if the Vikings gamble here, it has to be calculated, not desperate. This brings us to the biggest concern of all, the draft. Relying heavily on rookies sounds great until you look at recent results. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has had some solid hits relative to draft position. Jordan Addison, Jalen Nailor, Will Reichard, and Dallas Turner deserve credit. Those are legitimate successes. But the miss list is long, and fans know it. Names like Louis Cine, Andrew Booth, Brian Asamoah, Ed Ingram, and others still sting. Drafting is hard, but consistency matters. If this plan hinges on rookies stepping in immediately, then the margin for error is razor thin. The Vikings cannot afford another draft class that underperforms. So the pressure is clear. Kwesi must draft better than he ever has. There's no way around that. In many ways, this situation feels strangely familiar. Vikings fans have seen this movie before, especially during the Kirk Cousins era under Rick Spielman. Back then, Minnesota often entered the offseason underwater against the cap. The strategy was always aggressive, always all in, always chasing a Super Bowl window. And yet, competitive teams were still built. Not perfect teams, not champions, but squads that mattered every single season. The difference now is philosophical. Spielman leaned into veterans. Kwesi seems more willing to accept short-term pain for long-term flexibility. That doesn't make one approach right or wrong. It just means the results will define the legacy. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah doesn't sound worried, and that might be the most interesting detail of all. Confidence can be earned, or it can be tested. This offseason will tell us which one it is. The Minnesota Vikings are standing on a thin line between reset and reload. Every contract, every draft pick, every restructure matters more than ever. So I want to hear from you, Vikings fans. Would you accept letting go of familiar names if it meant building something stronger for the future? Or do you believe this team should push the chips in one more time? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation matters. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Minnesota Vikings news, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with every Vikings fan you know. Skol, and I'll see you in the next one. And let's be honest, this is where emotions really start to clash with logic. Vikings fans are deeply attached to players who have worn the purple with pride, fought through injuries, and carried this team through tough stretches. Moving on from veterans isn't just a transaction. It feels like closing a chapter. But the NFL doesn't reward nostalgia. It rewards timing, discipline, and cold decisions made before decline hits. The Minnesota Vikings know this better than most, even if it hurts every time the math forces their hand. That's why this offseason feels heavier. It's not just about who stays or who goes, it's about whether this front office can prove it has a clear vision that actually works in real time, not just on paper. For fans, the anxiety comes from trust. Do you trust Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to navigate this moment better than the regimes before him? Because right now, trust is the real currency. One thing that can't be ignored is how the locker room reacts. Veterans see the rumors. Young players feel the opportunity coming. That balance can either spark competition or create uncertainty. If the Vikings commit to younger talent, the message must be crystal clear. Performance earns security. That can energize a roster, but only if leadership holds steady. This is where coaches matter too. Developing rookies, managing expectations, and keeping the locker room unified during cap-driven changes is not easy. It's a test of culture, not just talent. And culture, more than cap space, often decides whether a season spirals or surprises. From a fan perspective, patience will be tested early next season. Mistakes from young players are inevitable. Missed blocks, blown assignments, learning curves, all of it comes with youth. The question is whether the Vikings fanbase is ready to live with those growing pains if the long-term payoff looks real. Because rebuilding without calling it a rebuild is a dangerous game. Minnesota has chosen a path that sits right in the middle, competitive now, flexible later. Walking that line takes precision. One wrong draft class, one failed extension, one bad bet, and suddenly the window slams shut. But there's also upside. If Kwesi nails this draft, if even 2 or 3 rookies become immediate contributors, the entire narrative flips overnight. Cap stress fades quickly when young players outperform cheap contracts. That's how contenders are built in today's NFL. This is the gamble the Minnesota Vikings are making, not recklessly, but boldly. So here we are, Vikings fans, staring at another defining offseason. The kind that doesn't always feel dramatic in the moment, but echoes loudly years later. Will this be remembered as the turning point toward sustained success? Or as the moment the foundation cracked under pressure? That answer won't come from press conferences or cap charts. It will come from Sundays, from wins and losses, from players stepping up when their number is called. Until then, all we can do is watch, debate, and believe. If you're still here with me, you're a real one. Drop your honest take in the comments, no filters, no sugarcoating. Like the video, subscribe for daily Minnesota Vikings news, and share this with every Vikings fan who bleeds purple. Skol forever.